we talk quarterback all day. But it really, and we've talked about it a little bit. So let's just dive into it. To me, and I'm a worrywart because I'm Jewish and it runs in the family. But I'm thinking, look, you can get Rodgers, you can get Stafford, you can get Watson. But if you don't really seriously address your offensive line, you're setting up any quarterback who isn't Tom Brady, and even maybe Brady, for failure. And to expect different results when this offensive line got two quarterbacks hurt is, I don't know, it's a stretch. Maybe that's my line of thinking, but that's not how you think. So please explain what the plan should be and you think will be to at least address the offensive line. Is it just continuity?
Continuity and Alex Mack. Those are the two. I think a veteran center to make line calls because I think that was something they did struggle with this year, which was line calls. They had Cronus Grasu, Ben Garland, and they were seeing a lot of different looks, right? That was always the complaint. If you ask Laken Tomlinson, Trent Williams, Mike McGlinchey, whenever they spoke to the media, hey, we're seeing stuff we haven't seen before. And I'm sure there were a little, because of that, the line calls were a little fumbled here and there because they didn't have continuity, etc. I think Alex Mack would make a huge difference there. I think continuity would make a big difference. And I think ultimately, like you can say the Niners should improve their offensive line, but philosophically, the Niners prefer lighter, athletic, run-blocking offensive linemen. Those are the kind of guys that they've always preferred. So if they improve it theoretically, they're not going to get a pass blocker. If they wanted a pass blocker, they would have kept Trent Brown, and they didn't want to keep Trent Brown. And so they prefer these lighter, athletic, run-blocking offensive linemen, and they do have those guys. That's why Laken Tomlinson goes from Detroit and becomes a solid starting player for the 49ers, because this is what his skill set is. He's a solid run-blocking offensive lineman. And then the other thing is, I think that one thing that hasn't been talked about enough, and I think it's a guy that gets a lot of hate, but one thing, he didn't play a lot this year, and I think this is part of the problem. The run blocking, the pass protection from backs was awful this year. And I think it was because of two reasons. One, Kittle didn't play, and on a lot of important downs, they had Kittle in the backfield to take care of blocking assignments. And two, Tevin Coleman is one of the best pass protection running backs in the NFL, and he makes a big impact that way. And this year we saw Jerick McKinnon against New Orleans put on a clinic on how to struggle in pass protection. We saw Kyle Juszczyk back there struggle in pass protection. Raheem Mostert isn't that great in pass protection to begin with. And Jeff Wilson actually did have, I think, the better moments of the guys, but that's not
his experience. He just needs experience.
Right. That's not his forte like Tevin Coleman. So I think that blocking for your quarterback is an entire thing. It's a team thing. I think they need continuity. They need a center, and they need their running backs to pass protect better. And then for me, the ultimate thing, and I think this is the most important thing, is I can't see an upgrade right now for the 49ers, given how it is, where they would immediately vault themselves to having a top flight offensive line. And I don't think there's that many top flight offensive lines that exist. And the ones that have built it, the Indianapolis Colts built it with, now retired, but the last 2 years, first round pick Anthony Costanzo, first round pick Quentin Nelson, second round pick Braden Smith. That's three top picks used on your offensive line. The New Orleans Saints, first round pick Ryan Ramczyk, third round pick Terron Armstead, second round pick Eric McCoy, first round pick Andrew Speed, and Cesar Ruiz. They picked this year in the first round. So the Cleveland Browns, right? You signed Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Wills, first round pick
Yeah.
Jan Conklin, who you gave a big contract.
Invest in the line if you want a good one. Yes,
it's a long-term investment.
That's what the Browns did. Jack Conklin, yep, we want you. Yep.
Investment the exact same way the 49ers have invested in their defensive line.
Yep.
And it comes to fruition in a couple of years like that. So the 49ers, in my opinion, can't really do that quickly this offseason. And ultimately, offensive line play in the NFL outside of the ones we've named really just struggles. Like the Cleveland Browns, the Buffalo Bills are a good pass protection offensive line. I'd argue that their struggles yesterday were a lot to do with the fact that Josh Allen wasn't really seeing the field. He was getting confused, and he was running himself into pressure because he wanted to run out of the pocket because he didn't really have a good understanding of what was going on. But they really struggle in run blocking for whatever reason. And the Niners run blocking is okay when you throw in their scheme. It's actually really good when you throw in scheme and George Kittle. It's phenomenal. So I just think that ultimately their pass protection is going to be what it is regardless of what they do. And so they're going to have to just upgrade quarterback and just hope that they can adjust around it, because there's a lot of bad offensive line play in the NFL and you can still win with it.
Hold on. Okay. All right. So let me rephrase this topic, this subject. This is a role play now. I'm Jed York. Okay. And you're Kyle Shanahan. And you're coming to me and saying, Jed, I want Matthew Stafford. No, I want Aaron Rodgers. Forget it. I want Aaron Rodgers, and we can get him. And we're going to need, another signing bonus and a big contract. And we need you to be financially in this with us. So I'm Jed York, and I hear that. And I'm thinking, okay, fine. I was in when you wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. I paid the money. This guy's always hurt. All right. And it's not your fault. But I noticed that you don't really address the offensive line that seriously. And I noticed, Kyle, I'm Jed here. I noticed, Kyle, that when I just asked you what your plan is for the offensive line, you went like 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes and never once mentioned Mike McGlinchey's name. So now I need to ask you specifically, Kyle, what is the plan at right tackle? What's the plan?
Well, one, they're not going to admit to their mistake with Mike McGlinchey. So regardless of what I say, Mike McGlinchey they're going to take the 5th-year option. He's going to be their right tackle next year, and they're going to hope he gets better. So I think that one we can just pencil it in and is guaranteed.
Hold on. Two. Okay, so the plan at right tackle is to hope McGlinchey gets better. That's the whole plan? That's step 1, 2, and 3?
No, because I think what he would say is, well, we're not going to – I think our injury situation is going to be better. Our quarterbacks are going to move better. They're going to make him look better with how they move within the pocket, and we're not going to put him in as many bad pass protection situations. And number 2, if it's Aaron Rodgers, you know what I would do if I'm Kyle? I would pull up the film of the last 3 or 4 games this year and say, look, Aaron Rodgers playing without Corey Linsley, Aaron Rodgers playing without David Bakhtiari, with Billy Turner playing left tackle, Aaron Rodgers this year without Brian Bulaga playing, when Jared Valdir started for them, and say, look, this is the same offense as mine. He can make the entire offense look better. And the only team that really made them struggle was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the reason the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made them struggle is because they stopped the run game up front with Vita Vea. Vita Vea is a mountain. He is a mountain. Men can't move Vita Vea. That's like the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life. And because the mountain returned, they stopped the run game up front with just their front, and that allows Shaq Barrett and JPP to tee off because you throw the ball 55 times and you only run it so many times yesterday. I think they maintained their balance, and a guy like Aaron Rodgers would totally change the complexion of this, even if a guy like Mike McGlinchey is still not a good pass protector.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but nothing you said right there gave me any more confidence in Mike McGlinchey. I understand that I guess the Niners, that their plan this offseason at right tackle is believe in Mike McGlinchey. I don't think that's good enough. Bringing back Mike McGlinchey you could argue it that you should do that since you may not be able to move him or improve, although I'm going to throw out a scenario that you could improve from him.
Sure.
But you bring him back, there has to be some type of plan B in the case that he's still 285 pounds. In the case that he's the same dude next year that he was this year, because that's possible. I mean, in fact, that's what I would bank on. And if he doesn't, you just thank God that he got back to 310 pounds or whatever it was. And maybe losing John Benton is exactly what this dude needed. But to me, there has to be a plan B. If not, I can't imagine him being plan A. But here's the thing. Okay, I keep throwing out trading Nick Bosa. I tweeted earlier today the Niners should trade Nick Bosa for the number 2 pick. He was the number 2 pick. That's a very expensive pick. Theoretically, they could trade Bosa back to Saleh for the number 2 pick plus stuff if he's worth more than that, and trade down from number 2 and get that Penei Sewell, who's like the next Orlando Pace. You may not like to do that. You may feel that Nick Bosa is a more impactful player and a more valuable player, and you may be right. All I'm saying is there are ways, if the Niners want to get creative, there are ways to get an elite right tackle next to an elite left tackle and say, Aaron, don't worry about it. We got you covered into your late 30s and early 40s. We got you.
But Grant, you're suggesting a total philosophical change with how the 49ers look at offensive linemen.
Correct.
And my point
and you would do that because you have a 38-year-old future Hall of Fame quarterback that you need to keep upright. That's the only reason you're changing.
And my point is that I don't think the 49ers are going to change their philosophy. And I'm looking at it through the lens of what they prefer are smaller, lighter, athletic, run-blocking offensive linemen because they want to be an offense that's creative with their run game and uses their pass game off play action. That's what they want to be. And you can do that, right? The Tennessee Titans did it this year with Ryan Tannehill. Taylor Lewan got hurt early and they let Jack Conklin walk, and they were still able to be a successful football team, even though their offensive line play was not very good, running a similar style offense. So I think that what you're asking is for a philosophical change, and I don't think they'll look from that perspective because, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to make that philosophical change. And you know what? We'll see the results of what happens next year because maybe you are right in the way they need to look at offensive linemen, the same way you've been arguing. You're talking philosophy where defensive line versus cornerback, right? That's a philosophical argument you have with the 49ers organization. This is a similar one in the same sense.
I guess the only way I feel about this is I don't know. I keep losing my train of thought, Vish. It's been a long day. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a minute. McGlinchey. It makes me so mad, that McGlinchey. Hold on. Let me start taking questions, and then it's going to come back to me. How about sign 2 decent offensive linemen instead of paying Trent Williams? That way we can pay for more important positions. I think it's something to discuss. What do you think?
Something to discuss, but again, I'm gonna again look at it from the 49ers perspective. It just looks bad, man. If you traded that much to get him and you foregoed your right to franchise tag him, and then you don't keep him, like, come on. It feels like they look like a bad organization if stuff like that happens.
Domain Threat, I like that name, says McGlinchey just needs to start eating meat again. He really weak being on that vegan diet. I don't even know if he's a vegan, but he played.
I don't even know that either.
I will say in Kyle's system, having an elite center is crucial. Covers up a lot of flaws across the line. Take a flyer on Alex Mack.
Agreed. Yeah. That was their big signing in Atlanta from year 1 to year 2. Really helped their offense. McVay, when he first came, other than Whitworth, who was huge, nobody talks about John Sullivan, Hall of Fame level center. They signed him and had him for 2 years, made a big difference for them. And Austin Corbett played extremely well for them this year, which was crucial. So, yeah, absolutely. Alex Mack would be huge.
Yeah. You were saying something, man, I'm never going to remember. It's going to bother me the rest of the show. And then, like, in 15 minutes, I'm going to be like, oh, wait, I remembered.
And I think other than Belichick,
Hold on real quick. Hold on. I just remembered it. I'm going to lose it, and then we'll come back. So we'll start over. The thing about McGlinchey, I'm so sorry. I'll never do that to you again. I promise.
No worries.
What I wanted to find to wrap up with McGlinchey is I feel like it's last year and we're talking about Jimmy. And I'm saying, dude, Jimmy's not good enough. We've seen it. And all Niner fans are like, nah. We got to give him one more chance. He might bounce back. He might have a really good year next year. I feel like we're doing that again with McGlinchey. It's like, we saw it. We've seen it. He's not good enough. And what the Niners are like, hey, man, I believe in Mike. We're going to give him one more year. That's what I wanted to say. Was it worth it? Maybe. I'm sorry I cut you off. That's all I'm saying.
Two things, because one, I also made a mistake. I called Austin Corbett a center. I think he plays guard for the Rams, so I did make a mistake.
I feel like it's the Jimmy situation again.
Two, with Jimmy, I think there was just delusion on what Jimmy is. With Mike McGlinchey, I think people have a good understanding and a grasp of the fact that he's a solid to very good run blocker, and he's a mediocre pass protector.
I would disagree. I would say that he's a mediocre run blocker and an atrocious pass protector.
But you got to do what you're asked to do within a scheme to run block. And unfortunately, there aren't many tackles that can do what. It's not like you could just put big Trent Brown or big Orlando Brown, big Zeus Orlando Brown here and say, do what McGlinchey does. There's
all I'm saying is any offensive tackle who's 285 pounds is going to look like they can run well. But that double team block at the point of attack on the outside zone between him and Kittle, I mean, the superstar there is Kittle. The one that makes that work is Kittle. And when he's not on the field, the run blocking, the Niners run game in general is just pretty average. So
of course. But I would argue, and it's just kind of minor, but I would argue that with McGlinchey, it's like evaluating a quarterback, at some point, you can say that Ryan Tannehill plays within the Shanahan scheme, but if he's very good at throwing off play action within the Shanahan scheme, you just got to give your props and say Ryan Tannehill is good at throwing play action from the Shanahan scheme. And McGlinchey within this scheme is a very good run blocker. And it might be only within this scheme that he's a very good run blocker, but he is a very good run blocker within this scheme. And the pass protection, I think you just got to be honest with yourself and say he's not that good in pass protection. He's good at run blocking within our scheme. And if you're honest with yourself, you understand what he is, then you're not going to be upset when Jimmy Garoppolo week 1 does what Jimmy Garoppolo has kind of been doing his entire career, right? You're going to know what he is.
He was supposed to blossom.